Hola Comadres, welcome to another episode of Comadreando podcast. I'm your host, Marcy, and today we have a dope-ass guest, my friend Osa, and I will let her introduce herself. Who are you?
I'm Osadris. A lot of people know me as Diosa. And yeah, I'm just existing in this beautiful world. I know that we're here for a purpose, so I run a brand, which I'm still getting used to saying that. I'll share that with you. It's called FÉLIZ. And specifically with you, I've been working on OASÍS FÉLIZ, which is my decluttering consultant business. Basically, I support people in their spaces, from home to business spaces, to clear out their space and create sanctuary so that they can be chill and home, because we deserve that.
Amazing.
That's a little bit of what I do, right?
So, you guessed it, Comadres. Today's topic is tidying as a way to work on our mental health. And the reason why the topic came up is that when I posted the reels the other day of me getting rid of stuff and decluttering, people were like, oh my God, I need this in my life, la, la, la. So I decided to bring my expert on the show so we can talk about her process and everything that it entails and what it means to people. Because I feel like people discount tidying as sometimes, as cleaning or whatever is more than that. So we want to deep dive into that and how it can help our parents of kids with special needs specifically.
Yeah.
So we're going to discuss the benefits of tidying and how it helps us. So my first question for you is, what are all the hats you wear?
So other than being this beautiful human being that just gets to exist, right? I'm also a mother to a 7-year-old, which I've homeschooled until this year. We're transitioning into public school now, which is scary, but it's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm also a daughter. I've been an activist my entire life. So basically since I was 13, I came into the activism world, which speaks a lot to the way that I run the business and the, como se dice, la fundación, where it came
the foundation.
from. Yeah, the foundation, right? And really being able to bring that social justice into spaces where you're doing decluttering, right? Why are those two things even being in the same space? Really bridging those gaps is a part of my activism. I also am a vegan chef. I also am, vamos a decir, a consultant to spiritual things, but I don't do spiritual consulting. But for my friends and loved ones, that's something that I'm being more comfortable to share my gift with. And so I'm a little bit of everything. I do mediation work.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of everything. I'm a Virgo, so we get in it somehow.
Yeah.
And also the love and passion for a lot of things, right? Yeah. Mental health awareness. It also came through my activism when I got burnt out.
It was growing.
Okay,
comadres, we're back.
So the mental health, that's what I was talking about. So when I got burnt out in activism, in activist spaces, mental health and arts really was what I dove into and was exposed to. And so, I feel like that is a part of who I am, and I bring all of that to spaces when I'm working, right? It's not just through food or through clearing your space, but it's how I show up and knowing that todo tiene intersections, everything is intersected. And so Vida Feliz is really about that. It's really about merging all the understandings of the intersections and then taking care of ourselves and all of that, right? So mind, body, soul, and spirit is important to me.
Yeah. And then one thing I want to do, I do want to say is that we're not just compartmentalized. We're not just one thing or the other. And just because I'm a mom doesn't mean that I'm still not a woman. And just because, I'm a professional doesn't mean that I can't be ratchet, right? So we have so many layers of ourselves, and I love that your brand embodies that. It embodies all the layers of us as humans, and you address all those things through the work that you're doing, which is very powerful.
Of course, because also too, sometimes, and I think that right now we're living in a time where everyone is awakening to their healer inside of themselves, but also awakening in a way where we're following what other people are doing, right? So it's there's a trend, there's always a new trend of healing, and I'm not per se against it, because I think that we really need to go internally and turn in that esa atención, or that attention to ourselves. And I also believe and have experience in seeing that people are just following other people's blueprints, right? And so Vida Feliz is based also on like I'm a human being, right? Like I am my own brand. I am everything that I give to, I've service or offer to community. I have gone through with myself, yeah. And so that's why I'm like a little bit of everything, because there are times when yo estaba vendiendo crystals, you know, and that was because I was having a spiritual journey with crystals, right?
Yeah.
And so like I don't do that anymore because that's no longer where I'm at, and I don't necessarily feel that you have to continue to monetize off of everything that you've ever embodied or like been in relationship with. And so I feel like also that speaks to like being real about like we're human beings, right? Like sometimes because I'm a Virgo, right, and because I'm like very much I want to become a master of everything that I do, people kind of look at you as like, oh, you're perfect or you're perfectionist or everything that you do is on point. And it's like, no, I actually don't have the answers to everything. I actually need more support than what I give off at times, right? Or how you see, right, that first
we have that initial facade that everybody's like, oh, she got it together,
and it's only because I got it together. But like, don't assume that because I have it together I don't need support, right?
Yeah.
And so Vida Feliz is also about like showing like we're human beings, you know, like we just need support and we witness each other. We actually grow and evolve more, which is why it's such a lifestyle brand.
I love that. So you are a decluttering consultant. Can we talk a little bit about, like how, like what made you get interested in that? Because it's not necessarily something like that's cookie cutter. And we're like, let me just be a decluttering consultant. What made you go into that?
Yeah, for sure. So really like growing up, that was my thing. Like yo llegaba a la casa de mis tías or yo llegaba to anywhere and they're like, ay, llegó Osadris. Ponle organizar. And it's like, and because I found a joy to it, like I would organize their fridges, I would organize their closets. And mommy, like if we were cleaning up at home, like I love just having a task where I organize things, but I also was a rebel. So because my mother is she's a very clean woman, she's a very organized woman, she would wake us up super early and like we would have to clean the house. And we already know the story. We know the story. Yeah. Right. And so for me, like because it was such an important ritual at home. Like mommy did not play about keeping the house clean and organized, right? But then that also means that I didn't have much time for play. Like if I was to play with something, it had to be played with in that moment and then be put away. And so for I found fun in organizing. So yeah, I would get to my tia's houses and they would be super excited. So that was really where I believe like that was the start of me realizing that I loved organizing. And then, as I got older, I was working and I would always go like to the closet, to the utility closet, to the supply closet. And I would just like go grab something and then I'd be distracted and be like, yo tengo que organizar esto because this is crazy right now. And I would literally take everything I just organized. And my boss at the time, was also a really good friend, she would come up to me and be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just had an extra 20 minutes. I just wanted to organize this. And she's like, it looks amazing. Thank you. You know? And so like, I was always supported wherever I went, like to be like, oh, you want to organize this? Go right ahead. We need the structure, right? And so like, it was really a combination of just like having that be something that was celebrated, I guess, in the way I showed up at home when I was younger and then in these workspaces. And then I was with an ex-partner of mine and it was pre-pandemic. It was like 2018, 2017, you know mine? Yeah. Time is a construct, y'all. Be forgetting, it's a year, so don't quote me. For real. And we were binge watching we were watching a show, and the Marie Kondo show came on, which is like Tidying with Joy or whatever the name of the Netflix series is. Yeah. And so I saw that and I'm like, oh, an organizing show. Like let me watch it. Yes, exactly. And at that point, I already really I looked at myself as a very organized human being. Like I can get anywhere y reglate cualquier cosa, right? Yeah. But I still had little organized messes in my room. Like you knew where everything was. It was just like tirado. But like in a corner, right? Because like everything else had to be tidy. So I watched the show, I binge watched it, and I fell in love with the way that she goes about with the categories, her process. So I'm like, oh, this is really dope. And then she's, as I believe in the show, like they're like give you little tips at the end and stuff. So I basically was like, binge watch the show. I think there was another one. I binge watched that, and then I found there was a book, and my partner at the time regaló el libro. But even before I started reading the book, I'm like, bueno, I'm gonna do this. And I did some of it in their home, and then I did it in my home. So I basically just followed what she said. And it was really choosing from a place of gratitude, choosing from a place of joy, and letting go from a place of gratitude. And so that to me like shifted, because I never really looked at items like, oh, there's something joyful in this, right? Like, yes, my clothes and my books, I always brought me joy, but everything else was kind of just because things I needed to support in my life. Exactly. And so moving from that place, something shifted inside of me, and I was like, oh, I'm choosing from a place of joy, which means I'm happy to have these things. And it was like an energetic connection that just happened. And then letting go in a place of gratitude, like, oh, I was able to have you, and now someone else is going to be able to utilize you. Of course, if it's like in good condition, right? It just, like I said, it shifted something in me, and I really, really loved the method. So some time passes. I end up throwing an event. I think it was one of my last big events where I brought together a bunch of local vendors, but I also was highlighting the method and like everything that I got rid of. Like we had like a thrift store basically going on.
Oh wow.
It was super, super cool. And at this point, again, I've only watched the show. Now I've been reading the book. I've been like telling everybody about how exciting this organizing thing is, right? But I had no idea that you could get certified. So one day after my breakup, I wasn't listening to music anymore. I only wanted to listen to podcasts. Of course, my dramatic. You know. So I'm listening to a podcast, and they're talking about organizing, or like it comes up in their conversation, and she mentions the KonMari method, and I'm like, oh, that's my girl, like, yay. I'm sorry, I keep laughing. I'm like, yes, of course, people know about her. I'm so glad, like, this is amazing. And then the homegirl goes to the other homegirl. She's like, girl, do you know you could get certified? And she's like, what? That's fire. And I'm like, certified. So right away I'm like, déjame buscar esto, and I find the whole thing where you can get certified.
Wow.
And so from there I was just like, this is my goal. I end up looking at everything. I see that it's like $3,000 at the time, which I could not afford. And so from there, like I was already, like I said, I was a community organizer since I was 13. So, and I've never left community. Like most of my work has been in nonprofit. So I already had that connection, and people knew que yo me fui, and that I was still doing my own thing. Again, like it was like little random things, but they all connected. And so for me, it was like a way to build a career. But at that time, I didn't see it like that. It was more like, this is my passion, and it still is my passion. But now I'm clear that like, this is my career. This is, a brand. Like, again, I'm getting used to saying that it's a brand. And so that occurred. And then I started a GoFundMe, and community supported me, and they were really dope. I got the donations that I needed, and I ended up taking the course. It took about a year before, like from when I found out about it to actually being certified. So it took me like a year, because as I was raising the funds, the different classes or whatever the case. And so I got certified, and now I'm a KonMari consultant. I'm not 100% still on their website, because you have to have people that finish the entire method with you. And because I am serving my people, right? Finances get in the way, mental health gets in the way, emotions that come up that are very deep buried, right, have gotten in the way. So I've had people get close to it, and then finished on their own, but I haven't had pictures, and like that's the whole, the whole process.
You need to document the process.
Yeah, you have to document this, send it to them. They have to like tell you, they have to get a testimony. So it's a lot of things where people are like, I trusted you to come into my home, right? It's a more vulnerable process where you have to write a testimony, right? And so I've had many clients that have come close to it, and some that have finished without me, but that's why I'm not on the website yet, and that's the goal right now. By the end of this year, for me to get on the website.
Yes,
so,
that's
of course, because you're gonna finish, and you're an amazing client, and it's just been so really. It has been such a like un gusto,
Yeah.
like, but un gusto bueno that like, to work with you. And so I'm already like, yes, Marcy's gonna be my one that I'm gonna put there, and then I'm gonna be on the website finally. And really, the website is really just to be able to work with people that can fully afford me.
Yeah.
Right. And just like talking about that transparently, that can fully afford this work, it is an investment. You know, like you've made an investment, and the reason why you've been able to complete it through, and I think that that's like one of the I guess like requirements, I don't know a better word than that right now, but like to know that you need to start and go through with it so that the behaviors are changing, right? And that's something that we spoke about when we first, and I always tell people it's really a behavioral change thing, and if you don't do it for a long term, or like for that period that really changes, then you kind of go back into the same thing, right? And so
that's one thing that I have noticed is that because you're so attentive and the fact that you've been through the thing itself, you know what to catch and like where to correct people the right way, obviously lovingly, but still you're like, you know, doing little things is going to continue, like consistently is going to help you change that behavior. So for example, one thing for me is that I'm fucking exhausted all the time because I do so much shit, right? I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I run a podcast, I go to the gym, whatever. So sometimes the house gets
You
messy.
have your own practices outside of all of that.
Yeah, and I have all this other stuff going on, right? So sometimes I get fucking tired, right? So then through the work with you now, I'm just like, bitch, you're not tired. Like, okay, bitch, you're tired. Take a 5-minute break, and then you're gonna go in and you're gonna reset your house.
Yeah.
You're gonna reset your room.
Yeah.
You're gonna fix your bed. You're gonna put your things away, right?
And that's such a, like, that's also something I bring up to people. It's like, don't ever think that you're not going to have a mess in your house. Actively right now, transparency, my house looks crazy because I've also had an extended amount of time. I've been busy nonstop for the last 8 weeks.
I
know. I'm like, and it's like a great busy, right? And like, because I'm all about like also that gentle life right now, like that, not that soft girl era, because I'm like, no, but we're on that gentle life.
Yes.
But then the reality is that I've also been building, right? And so I have been really busy for the last 6 to 8 weeks. So my house doesn't look like it exploded, but there's definitely mess, right? And so it's not about not having messes, right? Because we are human beings. It's about knowing that everything has a place in your home, so that when you get the moment to reset, like I've had little moments throughout these 8 weeks where I've been able to reset and my house is back to okay. Now, is it the deep cleaning that I want to do? No, right? But I'm going to get to that point. Like I'm actually, next week I have moments where I'm taking a break so I can reset my house fully. But when you have a space for where everything lives, it's completely different. Where you can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to tackle the living room, right? Okay, everything that's in the living room, ya en 20 minutos, you can reset your home.
Literally, when she came in that we were going to record, I had just woken up, right? I had taken a shower, whatever. I didn't get a chance to make my bed. So while we're setting up, I'm like, boom, 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 fix my bed. And then the clothes that I tried on that I wasn't going to wear, I put them back away. When was I ever doing that? Never in the life.
Well, so, also because you got rid of a whole situation.
Yeah, I got rid of everything, right? So I put everything away, right? And then I'm setting up for the podcast. Everything has a home. I know exactly where everything is. And it's like so refreshing to do anything now. You do things with joy. And even like the laundry, which was the biggest thing, right? I'm like, fucking laundry. Okay, so now I look at laundry with gratitude because I can afford to send it out, right? Somebody brings it back clean and folded because I am not about to waste 3 hours in the
Which is funny because you love folding. I've watched you fold.
I know.
Taking your time. It's like, I love your clothes. So, but that's something that we worked on, right? And so that's really what I'm bringing to people and waking them up to. It's like it's not about being perfect. It's not about your house never being messy. That's not true. It's we're living in a capitalistic world where we're working more than we're at home, right? And so this is why it's so important to support people to build the sanctuary. But it doesn't mean that the sanctuary no va a tener sucio a veces. Like, hello, and I mean sucio, right? Like when you go to a sanctuary, it's like super clean, but it's like they clean that, so when people go, está limpio. So it's like if you have a mess in your home, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just if you have had this practice of things go back to where they belong, you're going to clean up or pick up, rather say, easier than if you are basically moving clutter around, right? And so that's the difference.
My favorite thing that you taught me was that moving in gratitude, in the sense that, like, I can afford to send out my clothes, right? So I'm grateful that I get to put these things away, right? Things that I love, things that I appreciate, right? They all have a space and everything has its place. So when I get my clothes back, I'm not waiting weeks and weeks and weeks. Or when I come back from my mom's house, that I took clothes to her house, I'm not waiting a week to put the clothes away, right? Everything has its place. So I'm like, boom, 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 let's put this stuff away. That way it doesn't accumulate, right?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing for me. And you know, just like teaching gratitude for the things that we have. Because the thing is, because we live in a capitalistic society, there's this focus, especially as I feel like children of immigrants, not only children of immigrants, but like as Black and brown people, because sometimes we come from, you know, a lack mentality. We get into this headspace of accumulating things just to have them. Yeah. Right? Things are on sale, I'm gonna get it because we don't know when it's gonna be on sale again. Right? And I can afford 5 of them. Do you need the 5 of them, right? So changing your mentality of like, okay, yes, it's on sale, but do I need it?
Yeah. And that's the beauty about what I said, that I really appreciated coming from a social justice background and learning so much about poverty, and really diving into what are behaviors that show up. Like, therapy is what taught me what are behaviors that then show up when you live in poverty, right? PTSD, which we already know, but scarcity mentality.
Yes.
That is a real thing, right? And I'm not telling people, if you have a lump sum of money and that lump sum is used to buy things in bulk that then will last you 6 months, who am I to tell you not to do that? Because I do that. There are times where I have more money to spend on, vamos a decir, toilet paper, laundry detergent, right? All of the things that, if I had to buy them when I needed them, would probably be more expensive for me, right? So, like, yes, buy those things in bulk, but don't tell me that you need 5 pairs of the same earrings, 2, 3 pairs of the same shoes, unless I'm gonna say you're a nurse, right? Depending, I'm using nurse as an example because I've had a nurse as a client, right? Like, when she saw that the shoes that she needed were on sale, she would get 3 or 4. That makes complete sense because you're doing and you're using this thing, right? But what was her downfall, right? Or just like something she couldn't let go was when she used the shoes. She's like, oh, well, now what do I do with them? So now she had like this bulk of shoes that she already used and was never going to use again, but didn't know how to get rid of them, but still was buying more, right? So it's like, it's really talking about like scarcity mentality, also understanding the abundance that we already have, and what does abundance even mean to you? Right? Abundance means something different to everyone. Success means something different to everyone, right? Like, people can feel successful just because of the things that they have. Yeah. But then what is that internally going on, right? Yeah. And so again, that's why I was so grateful to come from a social justice background to then do the mental health healing, right, that I needed to do, and then learn in the process those behaviors so that when I am in someone's home, we're not just talking about, oh, we're never going to do this again. No. What's happening internally, right? And this is why, I've told you before, I want to go back to school because it does help to have further knowledge of the psychology, right, and how to show up for people with different mental health. Also, too, just having that on paper, just like we've had this conversation too, where like the reality is some people don't understand why I'm coming to their house as an organizer. Yes, and I'm also talking about, hey, when did this start? When you were a child? Has something happened? Has anyone passed away? Right? I'm like asking the deep questions that are what causes hoarding or causes a collection, right? Being over collecting, right? Yeah. And people don't understand, why am I coming with this mentality when what they thought I was just an organizer, right? Yeah. And I'm not. And I tell people that all the time. I'm not just an organizer. Yeah. I come with a background of multitude of platforms and spaces that have molded my understanding of why it is that we behave in certain ways that we do. And so I just think that it's important for me to go back to school so that I'm able to show up in that and also continue to learn, right? Yeah. And that's really important to me. And also the other part I was going to speak on earlier, you said it, is cleaning. People think it's just cleaning. I'm not a cleaning lady. And I've had people call me a maid, and I'm like, a maid? Okay, first off, what am I, chattel? Like, let's have that. Ooh, Sorry. One of my channel, let's have that conversation. But like, no, I'm not a maid and I'm not a cleaning service. To be honest, y'all can't afford this type of cleaning I do. I was having this conversation with my mama.
Period.
Like, my mama told me how to deep clean. Like, yo te saco la gaveta y te paso un vacuum, and like, I will clean. Like, people don't even deep clean in that way when you pay for that deep cleaning service. And so I know people can't afford my deep cleaning. So that's not what I do. I come and I assist you to organize. Now, which I've done with you, if we're cleaning out a closet and I see that there's dust, I'm a human being and I love my people. Yeah. I'm gonna take a little pañito or like a broom and just like sweep it up real quick and pasate un paño before we put stuff back in there, right? And so like, yes, of course, because I have a love for my people, but this is not a cleaning service. And the reason I don't only bring that up for myself, but like, people think, oh, if I do this decluttering, right, I'm cleaning my house. No, what you're doing is actually supporting yourself to clean your house with ease. Yeah. So that when you're decluttering, so when you're cleaning, right, you're not also decluttering, which is where everyone gets stuck. A lot of my clients, I'm going to say 90% of my clients tell me, I don't clean my house as great as I want to because I feel like once I start to clean, I start to declutter. And once I'm decluttering, I realize how much stuff I have, and then it's a circle. It's a spiral downwards. I realize how much I have. I got everything out. I'm going through it, and now I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. And so I just made it. And then you want to go and take a nap. Yeah. Which has happened to me before. Yeah, and so like understanding those behaviors and then the pattern of it, it's so much more fruitful when I'm coming in and helping you to declutter your space rather if I was coming in and just cleaning, you know? Which no against people that clean homes at all. We're actually supporting. Because now if you're paying for a cleaning service to come to your home and you've decluttered, that means you're getting a bang for your buck because they're going to be able to get into spaces they weren't able to get into before. And you actually might be able to either stop utilizing the cleaning service or not utilize them as much as when you did have a house full of clutter, because clutter brings, mice, they bring roaches, we live in New York City. Yeah. They brings dust. And so, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So coming from a social justice background, you were awakened to the reality of this country from early on, right? And it's not even like being ominous, right? We're just talking about literally just capitalism in general and how we are conditioned in a certain way to do things. So what really made you go into the social justice piece, really? Yeah. Honestly, it was my mentor. I went to high school all the way on 18th and 9th, and I had been around my area. I live in the Kingsbridge area. I had lived around there my entire life. Of course, I had family on the concourse. My mom worked in the Heights, and we have people on Dykeman. So, like, I was uptown. Like, that's why people ask me where you're from. Like, I'm from the Bronx and uptown. Like, I can't not say uptown, right? And so I joined this youth group at 13, and it was really about reproductive justice and learning our bodies. So it really was about like having safe sex, knowing, having your boundaries, making sure that you're engaging in a safe way with folk, because we're in high school, we're a bunch of horny little kids, right? And so I was one of the first youth in this program. And so my mentor was also in activist and movement spaces, social justice space. Till this day, you can learn, plethora from her. She has dedicated her life to freeing, to being revolutionary, to freeing the mind, freeing our people, and bringing knowledge to folk. And so because she was already an activist and she had such a deep role in my life, we went from learning about our bodies, taking care of our bodies, but also then it was Free Palestine at that time, because the World Trade Center had been, when I was in middle school, it had been ya derrotado. Like, I was really learning about domestic violence. I was learning about the injustices that America causes to other countries. And so just like, it was literally a whole new world opened up to me. And that is where I feel like we mentioned earlier, that is where I no longer was naive, right? Like and it's not that I had a naiveness, but I was also like raised very like, we're familial, we're just having a lot of fun together. We're not really, and we're not really talking about what's going on with the rest of the world. Excuse me, thank you. We're not really talking about what's going on with the rest of the world, right? Like, that just wasn't a conversation in my home.
Mhm.
Current events wasn't a conversation. So when I then joined this program and my eyes were opened up to so much, right? And it really was the pain and injustices that not only I saw in other countries, but that I was able to see here. Like, we live in the richest country in the world, and we have the largest amount of homelessness.
I've talked about that before.
Right? We have the largest amount of homelessness. We have the largest amount of uneducated folk. We have poverty, right? Like, it's at its maximum. Everyone is a paycheck away from poverty.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't want to accept that because we're fed the American dream that if you work really hard, you'll become a billionaire. No. Actually, to become a billionaire and a millionaire, I was actually having this conversation in the car last night with my nephew.
You have to exploit people. You have to exploit people.
Yeah, you have to exploit people, exactly. So, like, to become a billionaire, you actually have to exploit people. Like, there's no way around that. And I hope, that our youth coming up, maybe they'll figure out another way that we can become millionaires and billionaires. But the reality is that you cannot do that without exploitation, right? And so at a young age, imagine my mind being open up to this. I'm like, whoa, this is not okay, and I no longer want to be like a patriotic. Thank you, la dominicana se me sale. Right? American. Knowing what I know now, now I'm gonna be patriotic, right? And knowing how we can do better, and how we can shift things, right? And of course, starting in your home, starting in your community, right? And so this was my upbringing in my high school years. Like, I would go after school to go to my social justice meetings and learn about. I was literally a candidate in a political party for socialism, and I was going there and learning after school, And so I was the one that in history class, I'd be like, actually, we learned. They'd be like, Osa, please, not today. We gotta learn this for the test, sis, right? And so, like, but I was engulfed in just really opening up my eyes, and then how can I be of support to my people here?
Yes.
And I think that because that started so young, and I also came from a family of deep love. I came from a family that my father was studying Indian Ayurvedic, but so he was studying Ayurvedic medicine, and so we really took a lot of the Indian culture, and we grew up like that. So I was being woken up, before I had to go to school to do yoga and to salute the sun before I woke up, and so these are all things. I feel like it wasn't a moment where it was like, here it is. You know who you are. It was a cultivation since I was a very young girl. And then, like, now realizing, like, wow, my path had been, orchestrated in such a beautiful way for me to show up how I do now.
I love that. I love that story. Was there like a cementing moment that pushed you to the path of holistic wellness specifically? Like, besides being home and decluttering your partner's home?
Yeah. My ex-partner's home.
Yeah, ex-partner's home.
I'm like, she's single, But no, again, right? Like, I don't feel like there was I feel like there was multiple cementing moments for me. I would say, though, like, my own journey with mental health, and realizing, like, the better that I took care of myself, the more I could show up for people.
Yes.
Like, if my cup is overflowed, right, then I can show up for others. And a lot of the times, especially in community organizing, and which is why I was saying I was so burnt out, like, I was secando my cup, like, I was fully out drying. I was showing up for people when my cup was, like, literally, like, dehydrated. I think it's so. Now I know that the moment I started to really take care of myself and, like, shift that inwards was definitely a cementing moment for this work. And then, of course, it happened conjuncturally me becoming a mother. So I, rebirthed myself. I birthed my son, and then at that same time, probably like a year into it, was when I found out about Marie Kondo. So it was like all of this was happening. This culmination of things was happening at the same time. And I think that if I were to name a moment, that would be it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So in all transparency, this is the second time we record this episode. So in the first...
I didn't know she was going to tell you that, all right?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
We had such a great time the first time,
so what I'm doing is that I'm looking at the notes about stuff that we talked about that I really want,
I
us
love
to
that
cover
even
again.
though this is our second time, we've come up with, we've had newer conversations. So
of course. Yes,
the organicness.
So one thing, okay, you did grow up downtown, so your experience of being the like Latina is different than a little bit different than what I experienced.
Well, we only had that. So we only were for. So I'll tell that story. So basically, we experienced homelessness. I didn't actually see what was happening because I was so young. But my brother, my older brother, he let me know. Like, yeah, we actually experienced homelessness. Like, I didn't have a place to live at some point, and what I remember from that is that we used to live in our office. So my dad had an office space, and that's where we lived, and it was downtown. It was actually right, like a couple blocks away from Fashion Industries.
Okay.
From the school. So, we weren't necessarily living downtown. Like, I didn't grow up downtown, but I had a portion of my life that we lived in our office space. And again, right, I was so young that I didn't really see like, oh, we're living in, or we're just living where we're always at, you know? But that was like homelessness, and yeah, I didn't know that till I was much older. And so because we lived in that space, we were then engulfed with everything that my father was serving community, right? So like he had already, before I was born, my father had already graduated college in La República Dominicana, and then he went on to India. And while my mother was still with my siblings, this is before I was born in DR, because I was the only one that wasn't born in DR. They didn't wait for me. They was like, I was the most planned one, and I had to be born in this soil. I guess my ancestors did it for a reason. We'll figure it out as we continue. But yeah, so we were engulfed, right? Like, I was learning how to be an assistant to a doctor at 5 years old. Like, I was typing up the prescriptions that he was giving people. Yeah, like he would come with a papel that basically told you everything that's happening and what was your remedies. And I was typing that up like age 5, 6, 7, I believe. You know, and so again, like I'm learning that, but I'm also not, the typing isn't what was catching my attention. It was what the remedies were for people, right? I remember having que en paz descanse, mi tío, que fue como un abuelo mío, he would pack up the turmeric pills. And so he would have like this little capsule thing that you would put the little vegetarian capsules and then fill them up with turmeric. And that was one of my favorite things to do with him, you know? And so like, when I really say that we were engulfed in my father's practice, it was, I didn't of course, right, you're just growing up, you're just in the motion, right? But I didn't realize that was a cementing that was happening. So that was what was happening when we were living downtown. Like, that was the reason that we were downtown. And then after that, we moved up into the Heights. And my dad again had another practice that again we would go and support him. Like, we would always, it was a very familial thing. Like, everybody had a job to do. Until like my brothers went to, you know, high school and they got older and they started getting jobs on their own, but it was still like very integrated. And then at that point, my mom and my dad had already separated, and we were already living in the Bronx at that point. We lived in the Bronx and then they separated. And so I had, as a younger girl, I had a different experience of being Latina, right? And also not really, because like all the kids in my school downtown were like my color or darker. We kind of had the same experiences, like, you know, so yo no sentí eso. It wasn't till really when we moved uptown and I was going to school downtown again, or no, I'm sorry, we were in middle school. I told you, time is short, y'all. We were in middle school was when I really saw the shift in spirituality. Like, that was what really changed different. Like, I realized, oh, I'm different from other people. And it was because, again, growing up with Indian culture, right? We didn't really have an opinion about how other people practices their connection to God. I wasn't taught that. Yeah. Even though I had Desde Chiquita and I was going to DR every summer, you know, faithfully from age 1 all the way till I was probably like 14 or something. Every single summer, 2 to 3 months, I'm in DR. So I was seeing Christianity, right? Like, I was experiencing that with my family. Here, if we ever had like a Mother's Day or like, you know, one of those special events, you go with grandma. Yeah, all of us is going to church together. But that was never imposed on us, right? And so then I come into middle school and I'm meeting all these different people, and people got something to say about how your connection to God.
Yeah.
And so that is what I think was my different experience. Of course, other than like I was a vegetarian for like all of my high school, my childhood, you know, and like my favorite thing was a hot dog, a vegetarian hot dog, you know. So like, yes, those things are different, right? The fact that my father was a holistic doctor, right? And so many fathers that I knew were not, you know, or they bebían, or like they drank a lot, or you know, they weren't in two parent households, you know, like so I knew there were different things that like set me out, but I think that spirituality piece, was why I'm sharing it, is what made the most impact in me, because I realized, oh, to be different is to be othered. Yeah. And then of course at a very young age I knew I was a queer woman, a queer young girl, right? I came out bisexual to my mom sophomore year of high school, and so like the more that I honored my other, my different being, right? Yeah. The more I realized how separate I was from what was like original, or like not original, I'm sorry, quote unquote, what was the quote unquote the Latin experience, right? And then on top of that, I always knew que yo era negra. Yeah. Always. Like from a little girl, like I will always be like, oh, like where are people from? Like I know that we're black. Like, and then when I learned it, again, going back to this group that I was in, I really learned our connection to our Afro-ness, right? Our Afro-indigenousness. Yeah. I made up a word, y'all. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's a thing. Afro-indigenous.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, understanding like all of that, and then really learning it, right? Then even more I'm othered. Now I'm a queer Latina that also honors her Afro-indigeneity, then also wants to eat vegetarian most of the time, right? Also is painting her nails every single different color and likes all these different things, and is kind of goth sometimes, right? So the more that I packed on, right, or identified with my authenticity, is really when I started to notice how different my experience was from most Latina people.
I love that.
Latin people, yeah.
I love that. And it's just like, you know, there's not just one way. The reason why I'm bringing it up, being othered and like quote unquote different, is there's not just one experience, right? And everybody's experience is valid. And we, in order to support like what you're doing right now, you're acknowledging and honoring everybody for who they are and meeting them where they are, which is so important. Yes. Because you're not like, let me do this decluttering work. What are you doing? Like,
yeah, or coming into your house and like, oh my God. You imagine? Like, that is such a vulnerable space. Like, you just coming. First off, I'm excited. And I know, everyone looks at me. When we first met, you looked at me crazy, like, why is this girl so excited right now?
She's like,
yes, and I'm like, I can't wait. Yeah. And it really is like, when I say I'm excited, I am being so genuine. Like, I actually really love seeing an organized situation that I know I have the capability to organize. Yes. And that I have the capability to bring clarity. Not that you're not clear. It's just me being clear and shining my light. That light that's inside of you, inside of everyone, is going to shine because I'm allowing my light to shine.
Because we're mirrors, y'all. Yeah. I said this on the show before. We're mirrors. Yes. So, like, you shining your light and doing your thing is gonna inspire other people to do the same. Yeah. Which is like what we're like, I feel like as a collective that's what we're moving towards. Like people being their most authentic selves and having the space to do that.
Yeah. And being okay with like, I have not been like Yahoo, the woman that is sitting here, right, is not who I was. Like, I was in a relationship that I completely lost myself. That I actually woke up one day and I was like, who am I? Like, I no longer identified with who I was moving as in the world, right? And so, like, being okay with that part of the story, I think, is so important. And we've had this conversation. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, but that's the part of the authenticity that I spoke about earlier that is missing in this self-healing journey. Yeah. Right? Like, we heal thyself, but we also heal in community. Yeah. But what do? We learn from them. And then we learn from community. And then how do I then make it my own? Right? Like, the blueprint is there and that's beautiful. But if each and every one of us are moving that same blueprint,
¿Qué estamos haciendo?
¿Qué estamos haciendo? Yeah. And like God didn't create all of us to be the same and to worship, and that's right, going back to like spirituality and to worship the same way.
Yeah.
Like what I'm about ain't for everybody. And what other people about ain't for me, you know? But that's okay because all these walks are what is needed to create the future that we're all obviously working very hard towards.
Yeah, so my first episode was like, I came out with a banger. My first episode was like talking about religion and like how it's not for everybody. And then the thing is that
organized religion right? Ain't for everybody. Yeah.
So what I'm saying, organized religion is not for everybody, but like respecting people's choices, you know, like you can't just come over here and be like, you're going to hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, really? So anyway.
Yeah,
that was my side note about that. But yeah, no, like respecting each other and like honoring each other and helping each other walk in our authenticity is so important.
Yeah, especially which is why I can do like this very unorthodox passion, like this unorthodox offering. Like I still have people in my life. My nephew, he's so cute, and like of course he's a kid, so I don't blame him. But he always like, what are you doing today for work? Like, what is it that you're doing today? Because you do so many different things, right? And I love that. But like he asks and he's interested. There are people, right, older adults that will be like, she hasn't figured it out yet. Like, and I'm like, what? We haven't figured it out yet. We go into people's houses and like my energy be on 1,000 to support, right? And it's like because this is such unorthodox work, people can't wrap their mind around someone wanting to come into your space to assist you with how you're living without being judgmental, holding the space for where you're at. And I love that you said that. Like, yes, I will meet people where they're at, but I'm not holding you where you're at.
Yeah, no.
I'm holding you to your divine self.
Yes.
Right? I'm not saying, oh, this is who you are, so I need you to get up here. No, I'm like, I'm holding you here, and I'm also meeting you where you're at, but I'm going to hold you in your divinity.
Claro.
Because that is how I see you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't see yourself, there's moments where I don't see myself like that, but I have my reflection in the people around me to remind me, right? And so even if you're a stranger, I still am going to hold you to the divinity that you are, right? And be there for you in that process instead of coming into someone's space and being like, bueno, yo soy la que mando, I know exactly what we need to do, we need to get rid of everything, right? Like, who are you to like impose that upon someone? And so I think that's been really beautiful to ground myself in this work.
So I want to talk about like we briefly touched on like Saturday mornings. What did your Saturday mornings look like for you?
Oh man. So definitely like some music was blasted. And mommy wasn't really about like having the music mad loud, but she definitely had music on. And it was like all of the things that I'd be like, oh, I can't stand. And now I'm like, and now I'm like, I love them. I can't live without this music. Camilo Sesto and like Camila and all this stuff, right? I love it. I'm such a romantic because of my mom, for sure. But yeah, so music was on, right? Like it was a ritual. Every single Saturday, you already knew the deal. Like it's time to get up and clean. And my mom would wake us up really early because she wanted us to clean and then have the day to go do something together. Or like go to my tia's house downstairs or go to my you know, God rest their soul, they both passed away, but we would go to my tia abuela. And so like these were my grandparents. Like so my mother's thing was like, we're gonna clean so that then we can go and visit them because then Sunday we can go. Our family used to love Pizza Hut, and so my dad would take us all to New Jersey and we would go eat Pizza Hut, or we would go downtown to this great spot that made Chinese Dominican food. Okay. So it was just like, you know, that was what their plan was for us every weekend. And so like it was, we waking up early. So Saturday was waking up real early. Me and my sister get into it. My brother, if he wasn't working, my oldest brother, if he wasn't working, then he would also be. Also, he kept his room like, and that's actually someone that
pristine, right?
Yeah, like he's very pristine, and that's someone that I don't bring up as much, and not because we have a really good relationship, but I realize now that I'm bringing him up is like he also was a very deep part of me being organized and clean. So he would know when I would go in his room.
Oh my god!
So like you moved anything, my brother knew what's up. So like I thought that was so it was something that I looked up to. I was like,
I'm
oh,
inspired.
yes, I'm so inspired. So my brother, like, when he got up to clean, he's like, bueno, yo voy a ayudar con la cocina y con el baño because my room is spotless.
Yeah.
But then I had my older brother that could sleep through 1,500 million alarms. 1,500 million. My mother could take the entire bedding off of the bed and he would still be sleeping
with a naked bed.
Like nothing is happening. So, you know, like that was also my experience, was also, and which is why I mentioned earlier, I was a rebel, because I'm like, ¿por qué mi hermano puede dormir y nosotros no tenemos que despertar? And she's like, you see me actively trying to wake him up. Like my mother would, because that's one thing my mother didn't do. Like she taught all of us to say, oh, we hear that.
All right, guys, you know we're in the city, and what's the deal? It's summertime.
Yeah, right now.
So, something's happening.
So yeah, I mean, we in the heights. I'm like, let me get closer so y'all can hear me better. So that was a part of my rebelling, was more so like, why does my brother get to sleep? But like my mother, that's what I was saying. So my mother would actively like wake him up, like echarle agua, ponerle la música altísima, sacarlo de la cama, take off the bedding, and he would just go right back into the bed like naked. And I'm like, yo, you're hilarious. Like naked, the bed was naked. Yeah. I'm like, you're hilarious, right? But that was something that added to my rebelliousness, right? So like I would clean up my room, but I would always leave a section that would be messed up. Mommy would just be like, you're clean that up. And I'd be like, I don't want to, or I'll take it all and put it into a gaveta or put it under my bed. It was always something. And now I realize like that was straight up rebellion, right? Because like I could have organized it and I could have easily, but because there was so many different factors and the fact that I didn't want to wake up, I wanted to sleep. Yeah, you know. And even though it was funny because you would have all, like now looking back, I would have all that shit that I was so angry about, but then I would go hang out with my cousins and be mad happy. So like my mom was obviously doing the right thing by like teaching us how to clean. Yeah. And that was something earlier I was saying too. Like my mother was very much about like, doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, I don't care what you are. Tú vas a aprender a cocinar. Tú vas a aprender a limpiar. Like that was something like of course we all live with machismo, right? Like we all know what patriarchy is. But one thing I definitely can give my mom mad props for is that she taught all of her children how to survive. Mm-hmm. She taught all of us how to take care of ourselves. Like she was not playing about that. And even my mom had those one drawer full of junk, right? Or that gabinete that she would be like, ay, mija, porfa, arréglamelo, right? Because she knew that I liked it.
Why do we always have like the one gaveta? Yes. It's like everybody's big, deep, dark secret. Yeah. And in our households, it's like,
and I have clients that tell me, like, oh no, that junk drawer, we're not gonna go through it. And I'm like, why not? They're like, because everyone has a junk drawer. That's normal. I'm like, yeah, it is normal, but that's where our behavior lies. Like that is where and they just look at me, they're like, bueno, and I'm like, all right, we'll get there when we cross that road, right? Yeah. So that's what my Saturdays look like. So yeah, they were definitely mad annoying, but now looking back, like I'm super grateful to my mom because she taught me how to clean really well, you know, and like, and that's something that I'm, even though I'm not a cleaning lady, right? I'm not a cleaning brand. I still can bring that respect to my clients' homes. Yeah. And I think I know that's very important when you're coming into someone's space, right? Again, we were talking about that vulnerability. Like I've had a client that as I was getting to their home, they were canceling on me. And they told me this. They told me, I might do this, just continue coming. And I had to stand outside of their home for like 30 minutes before they let me in, right? And so like, imagínate if now I'm in your home, you finally let me in, you finally opened up your heart to me. And then I'm like, oh, well, I cannot pasarte un pañito. Like, I'm above pasándote un pañito. Like, no, you know, or I'm above. We just cleaned the whole area for the first time. You're seeing your closet or your room or whatever the space is, right? Be cleared out. I'm above taking a broom and just sweeping up the dust that's at the bottom. You know, and so that I feel is very important, and I'm proud of that. I walk into spaces that way. Yeah.
So we covered like most of the stuff, but I did want to cover about people of color, like our trauma-based habits passed down, right? Cleaning, throwing away stuff. Like for me, my mom, like not the, I don't want to say hoarding, like the collecting aspect came from mommy. Because like we would go to these parties in the 80s, right? They had all these little baby statues that they used to call bequeathed, right? And she would have tons of them in the fucking living room. Like everything was organized. Like she knew where everything was. However, we had so many. But then like it's this coming from like going back to what we were talking about, this scarcity mentality. I don't know why you don't need those little statues, but like it was a thing, like keeping them all, like even if it was a party of somebody you didn't even know, like you needed to keep. So my rebellious part on the Saturday mornings was like she would make me dust all those fucking bequests. So every time, and she's gonna find out now, every time like she would make me dust it.
Ay, mami, like, mira, te están diciendo
le botaba 5, and she would never notice because she had
5
so
every
many.
single Saturday.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And you never got caught.
No. Because she had so many, and then we would go to more parties and we would get more.
So it's like she would just replenish.
Okay, so this is the thing, right? Like, so I didn't as an adult, I don't do that, right? If I get a party favor, I'm like, okay, thanks so much, so cute, oh my god, garbage, right? If I don't need it. Yeah. However, my problem lied, right, when we talked about this, because like, I talked about it in therapy and I talked about it with you, is that kids would give me stuff and I'd be like, oh my god, they're hard-earned money. Because I feel guilty. These parents are, they're coming from impoverished neighborhoods, right? I'm working in Title III school. So Title III means that the kids can't even afford the school lunch. They can't pay for school lunch, right? So because you're getting free school lunch, that means that you are coming from a place of poverty. Yes. So whenever they would give me things, I would feel guilty about throwing it away, because I'm just like, I had to. But like, now I've gotten better about setting boundaries and saying like, you really, really don't have to get me anything. Like, you giving me your love and like showing me that I made a difference in your life is more than enough gift for me. Like, I don't need anything. Yes. Because like the thing is like, being able to say like, okay, now I feel comfortable in saying no, right? But also one thing that we did talk about the first time is that being able to ask people before you give them things, to ask them permission or what they need, so that you're not just giving people stuff that they're not going to use because you think that they need it. You know?
And I was going to say that it's right, the scarcity, there's a deeper emotion there. And it can be so many different emotions for people. Most of the time is, oh my God, I feel bad. I feel bad that I don't need this thing and that this person gave it to me and I have to hold on to it because this person gave it to me, right? Like, ese como, ay, are they going to love me still, right? Like, that.
Damn. Osadris.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry I clapped, everybody.
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's that, are they going to love me still if I get rid of this, right? And I'm not saying that's the only one I'm attaching to scarcity. There could be so many. But my experience has been that is, how is this person going to feel after they wrote me this beautiful card and they gave me this gift that I don't need, but they spend their money on? How are they going to feel that I now got rid of it? You know? And so that is what I mostly work with people through. Because it's not that you don't love them anymore. It's the memory of that moment that you shared, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we're putting value on the things that people are giving us, but the connection that you have with them can use that energy, that's a bigger conversation we're having.
Bitch.
Right?
Yo.
That's a bigger conversation we're having, right?
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people rely on gift giving as giving attention and love.
Thank you. Yes.
You know, how many parents don't we know that, because again, it's not people's fault. The way that capitalism is set up is for us to not have family time. They literally rip families apart, right? Like, that is what the system.
They send the baby to pre-K when they can't even be independent or
the system is working the way it was created, right? The system is working the way it was created for what it was created for. Is it working for us? No. But that is what it does, right? And so if now I'm a working mom, right, that is working 60 hours, I'm going to see a week, 40 hours a week, right? And I can't really spend time with my kid the way that I want to, and I know that they need, or I might not even know, right? There's some parents that don't even know what the kids' needs are. I'm going to buy them the thing that when we go to the store, they're mad excited about, because that's the way of me showing them that I love them, right? The same as if, let's say, I go to a birthday party and they now give me this favor gift. I've only seen them. Probably most of the time, you're only going to this birthday party once a year. Just like you said, your mom didn't even probably know these people, and she was still getting these favors, right? So we're going to these parties once a year. If I get rid of this thing that I got that one time I saw you, how are you going to then, if you come to my house and you don't see it, are you going to feel loved, right? And so it's a bigger conversation about like, if they give you this gift, could now, once you get rid of it, actually call the person, actually make plans to go and see them.
Thank you. Quality time.
You know, most people's love language is quality time. Why? Because we need each other. And we have been programmed to think that we do not need each other. We actually need each other.
My people.
You actually need, I think it's like
certain amount of hugs a day.
Certain amount of hugs a day just to be healthy.
Or to be touched. You know how many people go through their life like the whole day, like nobody touches them?
Nobody touches them. I mean, as a single mom, I feel like we can experience that. Like, yes, I hug my kid all the time, but I'm not hugging my kid 15, 20 times a day. I mean, I might, because I love my baby. No. You know, I love my baby.
We be smothering both of them.
Yeah, and they're cuddle bugs, right? But like, let's really talk about like, right? I'm not the experience, right? I am a part of the experience, but there are so many other parents that they didn't even know what being hugged meant. I come from a mom that my mother me enseñó que ella me amaba. Regardless of all of the things that I went through with my mother, you know, like I was very clear that my mother loved me. You know, I was very clear that she cared about me. You know, and that's because she was very amorosa. Like she would hug me, she would massage me. Like that's a part of my upbringing too. Like not only were we being woken up to do yoga before school, when we used to come back home, we didn't have to do homework right away. We got massaged right away. So I was getting a massage before I was doing homework. You know, so like that's huge, right? And so like that, I feel like just that understanding of like people don't even be touched that much, right? So when I'm now coming into your home and I'm talking about getting rid of this biqui, right, that connects you to that person, even if it was just a connection yearly, there's something inside happening for you. And it's that realization of, damn, I want more time, or maybe I can call this person, whatever the case may be. However you can shift that energy is really important, because we're, again, putting importancia to material items. Right? We have families that their outfits and their pictures look amazing for that moment. Then you really talk about what's your relationship with your child, and this kid doesn't know you, or you don't know your child, or you think that they're molestándote, or whatever the case may be, right? And so like we have gotten so obsessed with what we look like to the outside world that we have forgotten what it is to be in touch internally
and to build relationships.
And I really, really advocate that starts at home. Right? And again, going back to decluttering, right? Because that's the conversation we're having. If we declutter the space and you're actually able to now not focus on having to clean, having to, right, do all the things that take you away from family, right? Then you're actually creating a space where now all of what was missing that was being put into these items is now able to be spread upon your family. Now, if you live by yourself, it's able to be spread upon your tribe, right? It's able to be spread upon the people that you work with, whatever it looks like. But I know that there's a clarity that comes with decluttering your space, and there's a heart opening that also comes with that.
Yes, opening the heart chakra. I love that. So though we kind of hopped into the conversation without like shouting out how me and you connected. Which is, okay, so we have this friend in common, Stephanie, which we both love. Shout out to Stephanie. Steph the Boss on Instagram. And she's literally a todóloga. Me and Stephanie connected via the Mami Chula Social Club, which is, we're both members. And Stephanie and I have just like gravitated towards each other. We've loved each other ever since we met each other.
I'm a Mami Chula too.
Yes. So Steph does a lot of different things. So she creates beautiful jewelry. She does makeup. She does salsa classes. So this time that I met with her,
she literally creates clothes, like for herself.
She does costumes for herself. For like when she does this, guys, you have to check her out.
She's amazing.
So for my birthday last year, I went to her house. And I'm like, bitch, you gotta get me all the way slayed. You know how I do for my birthday. So I'm like, you gotta get me all the way together. So she was gonna do a full glam face beat, right? And she was gonna do my hair. So she was like, babe, I can't come to your house, right? I have something going on after. Can you come to my house? I was like, cool, let's go. So I went to her house and I'm there and she's in the middle of the process with Osa. And all I saw was all the bags, right? And it's not that her house was messy. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just like all these bags with all this stuff. And I'm like, what is this? What's happening? And she's like, well, I'm doing this process with my friend Osa la diosa, da, 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 da. Follow her on Instagram. So I followed you. And then she's like, explain to me. She's like, yeah, so we go through categories and then we like, decide what stuff we're getting rid of, what stuff we're donating and what stuff we're keeping,
yeah.
right? So we did this whole process and this is the result. And I'm like, wow. I was like, that's a lot of stuff.
That was so cute. He's like, well,
He's like,
I'm coming in the room.
So coming back from our commercial break, Aiden came in and asked me to help him with a puzzle game that he's fixing things, which I'm not mad at the game because it's like he's learning like actual things.
No, it looked really cool.
And I was like, okay, let me just put this together. So anyway, we're talking about stuff.
Yeah. So she was in the middle of the process. So yeah, you definitely got her because also she was moving. And so we were like jam-packed with time. Like I was seeing Steph like at some point 2 to 3 times a week because we really had to get through it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you met her in the middle of that, and then I've been doing this for a pretty not long time, but I'm still a baby, right? If you think about careers, it's still a baby career,
baby concept,
baby career, right? This is the time I would say from when. A little before I started working with stuff, so like a year before stuff, to now is when I really have like prioritized like going out of the box of what I'm used to, how to get clients. So that's how we met because I got my Instagrams all together and then I started sending messages to people and whoever. I think Steph made a post and like she like people whoever responded she like shared with me and then I reached out to these people or like I think she also posted my post on her page and whoever responded I like commented and was like hi it's me and like if you need my support and I remember you being like oh my god I need you in my life and you like liked it and then we started following each other and then every follower that I got, I would let them know, like, hey, you're a new follower. This is who I am. This is what I do. If you would like to set up a consultation, da da da. So, and then I realized you were a Mami Chula. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's already, like, anybody that's a Mami Chula, I already feel like y'all are dope. I don't care if I know you or not. You're dope. Like, yeah. So, like, I'm like, okay, this is dope. And then I remember you, like, slid in my DM. I'm like, girl, I need you. Like, what are we doing? When are we meeting?
Yeah. So I hit you up, like, around... So initially, like, I checked the prices and I was like, I can't do it right now, right? So this was like, I want to say
it was like our first conversation,
like October, right? And then I was like, for sure, I'm doing it this year, like meaning 2023. Yeah. So January came along, I was like, bitch, we're about to start this work. So then I hit you up and then we figured out that like in the springtime would be better because that the school year's
you had a lot
and then I had space to like hold space and like do the thing that I needed to do. Yeah. But yeah, that's how we connected and like I'm so glad because it's been life changing for action. We're back. Okay. So we started the process of tidying, right? So what is it that you do to determine whether you can work with a client?
For sure. So the first thing we're doing is an initial consultation. The initial consultation really is about getting to know the person and them getting to know me. It is framed as I'm coming to see your space, which is important. But I really want to get to know the human being that I'm about to be working with. And I want them to get to know me. Because, yes, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Right? And I don't say that like I'm a horrible person. I just feel like not everyone meshes with everyone. Yo no le voy a caer 100 bien a todo el mundo, you know? And it's really because the work is so vulnerable. Yeah. Right? And I show up already in vulnerability. I show up in wanting to hold that and I show up, like I said earlier, in holding you in your divine self, in your divinity, right? So it really is about us getting to know each other. I come and I evaluate the home as well. I'm watching the person the entire time. I'm seeing how they're talking about themselves, how they're talking about their space, if they cleaned up even though I tell them not to, if they picked up even though I tell them not to, right? Because I want to see what's your routine. right? And so if you pick up, I'm not able to read that in the room, right? And so we do an initial consultation, ask all the questions that is necessary. If the person's in therapy, great, because they now have someone to debrief with. And so that's really like, that's the first basis. After that, we go into starting the journey. Now, for me, the initial consultation is really important because I am taking a scan on how I'm going to show up for the person.
Yeah.
Of course, there's like a level of showing up that I'm going to do regardless for everybody, but there's different needs that everyone has. And so the initial consultation is really about that. It's like, how am I going to be able to show up for this person and what are the needs that they have? So then that's basically the process. That's what we're doing. Most of the time, people always are down to start.
Yeah.
There are some people that say, can we start with one? So before I got to where I'm at now, I would only work with people that did the entire journey, that say they would do the entire journey. That didn't work for my community, right? And I had to go through the trials and errors. So once I realized that's not working for my community, 1, because finances, 2, because emotional support, 3, because mental health support, right? There's so many different things that can come up during this work. And so I sat with myself, and this was during the time where I had actually taken a break from decluttering because I wanted to, 1, like, make sense of all of, like I said earlier, like Vida Feliz is who I've been my entire life, but it had to come together. And so I had to take a step back and really sit down with the structure of what it is that I'm offering so that it can make sense. And so when I took that step back, I also realized like holding people where they're at and meeting them needs to be meshed. And so now I am willing to work with folk that only want to do a section of their home. So I have folk that I'm talking about is that people have therapy, or they have like another outlet to support them. That's really important. Sometimes I don't want to work with people like that, but I think that it's important when you do have it, because then you're able to decompress and like go through what is coming up for you. Also too, because so many of us are now realizing what are the mental health challenges that we live with, right? So like anxiety, depression, ADHD, right? So many different things. I'm even learning how to support folk that realize that they need my support, right, with decluttering. But what does that even look like, right? Because if I'm supporting someone that has ADHD and then we come into the space, I have to learn how to redirect them, which actually was really, really dope working with someone that had ADHD, and I was able to put that into practice. And just because I am someone that knows how to just like learn and observe someone, and then I'll also ask them, hey, how can I be of support? What do you need, right? Because I already have that practice in my everyday life. It was dope to see me show up and rise to the occasion and be able to like continue to like bring them back to what we were doing. But then like when I came by, right, again, the next sessions and would see how the house is, right, and then support them to like, okay, what are the little things that we can do to support you in when you're having your heightened moments? Because at the end of the day, like you're living with that, right? Like I can help you declutter, but you're still living with it. So it's like that part is really important for me to have that very open conversation about, because I want to be able to really support you, right? Like if this is more than just decluttering, right? I don't want to take, or like not take someone's money, but I don't want someone to pay me for something that actually has to be resolved going to like a practitioner that can support you further, right? I feel like this can be complementary to that, but if there's something underlying that I don't know because you don't know, it can come out during decluttering sections, or if you get that support, then it's easier to support people in the needs that they have. So that, again, that's a part of the initial consultation. There was something else that I was going to bring up too, and it was you mentioned boundaries. There's certain, but I feel like I'm very clear in like setting my boundaries, especially with people, right? Like the relationship that we got to build, I think it was just because we come from a very similar community. We have people in our lives that are close to us, and I think we were able to build friendship through this work. but I don't necessarily build friendship with all my clients, right? And and not to say like I don't want to be your friend, you know, but that's not what I'm there for, you know. And so with you, it's definitely been special in that. And even when I have to turn on that, like, hey, I'm not being quote unquote your friend right now, I'm being your consultant, it's easy to move into that with you because you hear where it's coming from, right? And so like that's why I keep it very much on like a professional level. Yeah. Even though like I walk in and something that I was just reminded now while I was sitting here, you know, we had a nice break. I already have this love for people. I already have this wanting to support them, right? Lo que nosotros sufrimos, what we suffer living through capitalism, I'm already pained by it. You know, like I not that I walk around in pain all day, right? But like there's a sensitivity that I have to the things that we go through, right, as people. And I can feel, you know, misery. I can feel pain. I can feel sadness. I can feel all these things on people. So like I already show up with a level of love that I have towards the person that even if we're not in friendship, right, or we're not in that, you still feel like a friend is there supporting you, right? And I feel like that's very important for me, just to be in space with people, because if it's always like this super professional business, or we can't make a joke, you know, like I don't necessarily see how that supports folk. And like right now I have these older clients, and with them it's very much business. Like I didn't even bring them to them the option of like me bringing Gabriel, because that's also something that I've created. Like I've been working for myself for a while, where I also homeschooled, and so like sometimes bringing my son to sessions was just what I had to do. And I know who I can and who I can't do that with. Most of the time I can, but with these people I cannot, you know? And so with them, like, it's very much work, and that's what we're there for. That's what you're paying me for. But it's been dope to kind of like, as we're in the work, see how she has opened up to me and like has been joking, or like, you know, by accident I called her Nana, like, because I have folk in my life. Like I have folk in my life that I do that with. And so, and when I did it, of course, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to cross any boundaries. She was like, no, it's fine. She was like, that actually shows me that you really care about me. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, yes, they're getting paid. But when I see the way that some people are living, like, I do have a level of like worry. Compassion. And worry, like compassion, but worry. And I don't like to worry, because I say worry is the prayer of what you don't want to happen, right? But like there is a level of like, so there's a level of I guess the word right now I'm gonna use is worry. I don't preocupación, right? Like or I
feel like it's more care.
Yeah, it's care. It's definitely care. Like there's a level of care for sure that I have for people that I'm seeing how they're living, and like it's affecting their health. Like again, the person I'm working with right now, the clutter in her home has consumed so much that now she's having respiratory issues. You know, she's having respiratory issues. She's not sleeping well. Her husband's not sleeping. So it's like there's a level of care that I definitely have, and I love that. Thank you for, you know, wording it that way and giving me that language, because I don't like to use worry, but like we're like, yes, you're paying me for the service, but like I want to be able to like bust out as much as we can in these sessions, because one, I know that finances are a thing, and also like can become overwhelming when you have to do it for a long period of time. One thing about the KonMari method that I love and that I learned is that it's a marathon, right? But sometimes marathons, we're not there for 4, 5, 6 months, right? It's about going through your training and then like banging it out, right? And so there are moments where it's like, yes, we're in that marathon where it's like just the training part and that, but then and I'm talking about like in a session where it's like that, and then there's like, no, we have to make the decision. Like, there's no more maybe pile. It's donation or I'm keeping. You know? And so that level of care, like again, going back to your question, like, that is something that I want to be able to express when I'm with my client. And so that's something I'm also looking for when I'm there in their home for the initial consultation, for sure. Okay.
So is there anything else that you look for in clients that like will let you know that maybe this is not a good fit?
A good time for them? I think really I'm a good fit for everyone. You know, but I think that there's certain times where this work is for you, and there are times where there isn't.
Okay.
Definitely folk that are just moving into like learning about themselves, and I'm talking about like doing that internal shadow work, right? I would say this is supportive to that growth and that healing and that shadow work and that real focused internal care, right? That we're going through. So like folk like that, I'm always more privy to being sensitive or not sensitive, but like cautious, because they could start and then end and then cut it and not get to the end of what they had already set for themselves. Because again, I'm no longer coming into people's spaces saying we need to do the entire journey, right? We don't have to do all the categories. I'm now walking in with, where are you? You want to do just one place of your home? Cool. But if we don't even finish that, I'm cautious, because one of two things can happen. One is that you learned all of the amazing tools that I brought and that you actually apply them and you continue to declutter your home. The second part, which is usually where it goes because it's a behavioral change thing, is that now you've created space to reclutter again.
Oh my God.
And it kind of doubles quicker because now you have all this space and you're like, whoa, I haven't seen all this space. So now you're getting things to fill your space back up with. So that's something I'm super cautious about, because it's not at all what I'm coming in to bring into the space and to support people with, right? Like you're kind of going backwards. So I'm cautious there. I'm also cautious with men. Unfortunately, that's the truth. Masculine identifying folks have a tendency of wanting to be in control, which I think all of us have that. But I've experienced more with men where they want to be so much in control that they then now are telling me how we're going to do the process. And so I'm cautious there. One, I'm a very strong woman and I can very easily tap into my masculinity. But that's not what I'm bringing when I'm walking into someone's space where I want them to be vulnerable and open up their hearts to me.
Yeah.
And open up their space to me. So I am cautious about how is the conversation going when I first come. How are you treating me? How are you looking at me? I had a client before that he made me super uncomfortable in his home, and I was very far and I couldn't get home. Like he was the person that basically was like taking me home.
Oh, nice.
Like I come into agreements with different folk, and I mean after this I haven't done that agreement anymore. But he was also like a taxi driver, so he could cover transportation in that way. And so like that was super uncomfortable, and like the whole like transitioning from his home to the car, like everything. It was very much about when he wanted to do it. So it was a point where I was extremely like in his house for like half an hour after the session already finished, and I'm like, no, this is not okay. Right. And so like I learned from that, right? And like I'm the type that I could be on vacation, like I've gone on my own vacation and gone and hang out with a bunch of strangers that were men, but I'm here still sentada, right? But I'm more privy to what energy that calls in now. And I'm more cautious about what am I engaging in, right? And so like I'm not trying to like have this like prejudice, right, of like men. No, of course I know I've worked with men that have also been success stories, right? But I think that is something that is something that I do keep at the front of my head, is like, how much are you willing to let go? How much are you willing to surrender? Because this might not be the time. Maybe we met at the time that was perfect for you to plant the seed. But not to do the work. And so again, those are all things that I'm looking for. But most of the time, 98% of the time right now, I love all my clients. I love working with all the clients that I do have and I've had before.
So I have a question. Are there any rules that you have when you start working in the sessions? Like when you're holding the sessions, are there any rules that you have to set with your clients, or like that they know that, okay, when Osa's here, this is not happening at the same time?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's more so boundaries or like agreements, right, to the work. So like I always tell people, like, if you're booking a session, you shouldn't have anything else to do afterwards. If you're coming from work, I completely understand. Sometimes, like, that's the schedule you have, so it's fine. But not doing anything afterwards, I really, really, really suggest highly, because you don't know how much energy this is going to take out of you. And, okay, let's say if it's like a yoga class, dope. Is it close by? Cool. Do that. But nothing where, like, you have to show up and pour into someone else, or you have to travel a long way, or it's something as like energy use of your energy as high as like what we just did in the session. So that's definitely an agreement I come up to with people. You know, like I don't also want to come in and have to wait for you 30 minutes like to get to get yourself ready to start. You're being charged. I'm coming in already ready. My energetic field, my energy to pour out to you is the prep work is already there. So if I get here and I have to wait 30 minutes, or I get to someone's space and I have to wait here 30 minutes, just know that I'm not giving you that extra 30. You know, like you committed to that, and that's what I have. And I learned that through myself not honoring my mentors, like my mentors' time. And that was a lesson that was taught to me. It was like, it's not about you not being here on time. It's not about you not honoring my time. It's about honoring yourself in the commitment that you have to this, and also understanding that, like, if someone else calls me in that moment, or if I meet someone in that moment and I'm not having that exchange, that's taking out of what I already set up for you, you know? And so, like, that's really important.
People coming over.
Yes. Oh my God. People coming. Oh my God. That was such a big one. I remember when we had that conversation. You're like, okay, so good to know. Mommy is not coming. You know, like, people coming over, and also, like, even if they come over, having an opinion on what's happening. Because I've had clients and stories that I've known where you're going and you're doing the work and you're getting rid of stuff, and then people come over and they see how much you're getting rid of, especially parents, especially immigrants, right? Like, and they're like, oh my God, tú agatas todo eso, all that money that you spent, all that stuff that you did, you're gonna get rid of all that stuff, and they're not understanding that it's not serving you. You know, and so that can derail you. Completely. People that be like, that have a list of people that they want to give stuff to, but they haven't had a conversation with any of them. Right? Like, that's also a boundary. Like, you need to ask all these people by the time I come back, or like once we reach that category that you are so hell bent on giving them something from, that you've had a conversation, they told you that they need it.
So let's talk about that part, right? So why is it important for clients to ask before they go and give something to somebody?
Because most people in America deal with a portion of hoarding or over collecting. So, and of course, right, because we're also live in the greediest country in the world, so that makes sense, right? And so what you're doing is moving your clutter from your house to someone else's home. And it might be something that they need. It might just be something that they need and they will use, but you don't know. And so now what's happening more internally is the accountability piece. It's the actually feeling your feelings that are coming up for you having that many things, and now having to add it to the garbage, to the landfill, to all those things. The earth needs us to feel what we feel when we feel bad about having an abundance of things that now you have to throw away because you never used. You have to feel that so that your behavior can change. Because if you don't feel that, there's no accountability happening. There's no behavioral change. You're going to go out shopping and you're going to get all those things that you don't. So, right, that accountability piece needs to happen so that there's an actual behavioral change occurring. So that when I go shopping and I see these things that I'm like, oh my God, qué lindo, me gusta, me gusta, me gusta. It's like, oh wait, let me take a second. I had to get rid of over $5,000 worth of stuff, right? Like the person needs to say to them, I got rid of almost $5,000 worth of stuff. Do I really need this item? Or am I shopping with my eyes, right? Or am I accepting where I'm not holding my boundary, right? Like that's another thing. Like I really suggest highly to my clients, like, set these boundaries with your people. Let mom know she can't buy you anything right now. That actually you would rather have experiences, right? Let your partner know, actually, we're not bringing anything into the space right now because we're really getting rid of what, and then we're going to create a space where, like, all these things that we want to bring in, we have the space for, right? Also for creativity, you're literally creating space to be like, most of my people say, I want to be more creative. Right? So if we're creating a space for creativity, I need you to feel all of those feelings. That is the reason why we are, as a human race, literally, we are the ones that do not go with the ecosystem. If you were to remove us, everything would be fine. Everything would be fine. Literally. So I need people to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
We need, the earth needs, again, right, to feel that, so that then you can be accountable and know how you're going to move forward and feel, and again, those behavioral shifts can occur.
Yeah, so one of the goals that we talked about is that I want to have a dedicated space for my podcasting,
Yes.
right? This is part of my creativity, right?
Yep.
Besides the fact that you already know I'm a great artist.
Yes.
Not to toot my own horn.
For real,
but,
though.
I need the space to create, right?
Yep.
I need the space to create. I need the space for my podcasting. From having this plethora of things that I've been collecting, I haven't been able to give myself the proper space. Like, I'm recording in front of a window. Is this the optimal space? No. Yeah. But this is what I have available.
And at least you're making it work too. That's the one thing too. Like, there are so many people that don't, right? Like, you didn't allow this to get in your way. I know there's other things that it has gotten in the way of, right? And then I'm not gonna air dirty laundry. I'll never do that to any of my clients at all. And it's not that bad. But like, there are people that this becomes so stagnating for.
Yeah.
And now there are people, right? Even myself, I've been in that place where I could not create because I literally can't even fathom starting a project that I don't even know how I'm going to sustain it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at least you had that because you had a vision, because you want to support parents, right? With children that have the spectrum of autism, right? So, like, you had that, but there's so many people that don't. And so, like, to realize that that's stagnating your creativity too, like, it's, again, something that we need people to feel, so that when you are out in the world and when you're receiving, when you're interacting, right, it's not coming from a place of super intentionality, so that your house can never go back into where it was.
Yes, I love that. And then another thing that I do want to talk about is that the fact that I just don't have people over in my house, and if they pop up, I'm like, well, you got to go, because it doesn't serve you if you're like doing something, you're doing the work, but then like somebody has an opinion, and then they're like, ay, no, pero déjame coger eso, when they don't really need it. And then that's the dangerous part, right? That you were talking about, is that tú estás cogiendo clutter from your house and putting it in somebody else's house. It's just doing the same thing, and then you're giving that person your baggage, right? We don't need that.
And that's something else too that you were asking, what do I look for? I ask people if they have other spaces, other apartments, storage spaces, all of that stuff. If you lived with your mom at some point and now you live in your own apartment, but you know, they kept your room the same, like, you do not complete until you literally clear every space that you have ever occupied.
Yeah. So and that's another thing, right? We talked about how I go to my mom's house all the time. And then the problem in the space that I occupy there is that the space was being used by somebody else before me.
Yes.
So I had to literally ask permission to that person before I started, and I finally got permission to be able to clear that out. So like now I'm like super excited, like I'm gonna do the same work over there.
Yeah.
And then through that I can teach my mom too, because the thing is, like, it's not that my mom is a very clean person, just like your mother, right? However, she has an accumulation of things that she hasn't gotten rid of, and then she's attached to it. Yeah. So it's like teaching her that the object doesn't represent the person
or the feelings that it brings up for you.
Yeah, like we were able to declutter the stuff when my father passed away, and I've never shared this on the show. Like, they know he's passed, obviously, but we were able to get rid of the things that my dad had here, because my aunt went in after he passed. My mom wasn't here, and she did it without permission. Yes, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yes, 100%. Right?
That's the wrong way to do it. She did leave like pictures and certain things, but clothing, everything was gone. Like, there was a point that we came back and there was nothing here of my dad, like, besides photos. So, like, I understand some people need that, but, like, I know that if my aunt hadn't done that in that way, we probably still would have had my dad's clothes here.
But also, honestly, she did it wrong, you know, like, and we have to say it's okay, because a lot of people, like, I've had children or adults that hire me to support their parents, and their thing is like, oh, just get rid of everything. Like, everything is just garbage. Like, you don't even use it. You don't know what they need to talk about. What they need to just get out of their body to then release the item. Like, especially with people that have passed away, that's where hoarding comes. Like, like, you're not a hoarder. And it's true. I love that you said that earlier. Like, no, most people are not hoarders. There are a lot of hoarders, yes, but most people are hoarders. You know why? Because when you're a hoarder, you don't necessarily say I'm a hoarder. And if you do, you're like, I'm a hoarder, but there's no problem to it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't look You don't look for someone to support you, right? So most of the things are just emotions that we haven't given attention to.
Mm.
And once you start to give attention to that, the letting go and the surrendering is easier. Now, I'm not of the school of thought to get rid of everything. If you want to be a minimalist, awesome. I can support you with that. But this is the minimalism. It's about only having things that serve you. So if your aunt would have did it in a way where it's like, oh, what of his would y'all like to keep and everything else we can discard, it might have looked differently, you know? I have I'm gonna call her my friend, but she's not my friend in person, but she my friend. She my friend. She my friend. She my online friend. She's super dope. And she did something. I know when I say it, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I know who this is. Their grandfather passed away, and she took one of his shirts and made it into a pillow.
Oh, wow.
For the like, I think it was for either la mamá or la tía, but like it was for them, for the family. And that's something beautiful that you can create to last you a long time with a shirt, you know. And so it's like, I say these are things, and as we've gone through your father, because you still have your father's stuff, right? There's something you were going to get rid of. I'm like, wait, but why? And you're just like, oh, I just like, this is extra, you know? And it's like, but then we had a conversation. You're like, no, actually, this is going to bring me to a really good place when I see it of him, because this is something he accomplished, right? And so it's really not about getting rid of everything, but it's more so like, let's honor the things that you're keeping, so that they can actually be honored and in the space and be in conversation. Now, I'm not going to tell you to keep everything from this person. That's going to hold you back too, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm speaking to is that, like, there's a lot of family members that want people to just get rid of everything and don't even give them the compassion of having the conversation about the item.
Like, what does that mean?
What does it mean to you? Maybe that's all I need, maybe, is for my person to hear what it meant to me.
Yep.
That's it. And then after that, like, oh, I can let it go.
Yeah.
You know? But if you're not giving that space and you're also treating people as if their stuff never meant anything to them, and as if they're just straight up garbage, that's really hard for someone that has asked for support to hear, right? Like, again, talking about the opinions of people coming, right? And so that's why I'm against the thought of, like, your family being. Now, if family's going to be in the space, that means because they're on board. Yeah. They're going to be supporting and getting rid of stuff, and they're not giving opinions at the same time. And having extra hands is always great.
Claro, because what is it? My grandma always used to say, más fácil batir la casa entre dos gente que una gente
sola, ¿verdad?
Yeah, so what are some successes that you have had to, like, in the process? I know you haven't had anybody complete yet. Right? The language. So
no, because you're gonna complete. Yeah.
So you haven't had anybody complete yet, but what are some success stories that you really feel like close to your heart that you want to share?
Yeah. Other than myself, yeah, because it's been really dope to just, like, really take this method and the understanding already. Like, again, I had my organizing love already, but having that joy and that gratitude for the things you're letting go and the things that you're keeping, right, is just really life-changing. And so it's been dope to see my son, like, emulate that.
I love that.
Yeah, like, the fact that he understands it, and I did it, you know, I continue to do it. And there are times where there's things that he keeps, and I'm like, my man, you don't even use it. But the autonomy that I'm giving him and that skill that I'm giving him is going to
a lifetime skill.
Is a lifetime skill. So right now he could keep an extra toy, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna die about that, right? But being able to see that he really be like, mommy, I'm good. Like, this doesn't bring me joy anymore. I enjoyed it. Let's go donate it. You know, like, having that relationship with him and him understand, like, when we go to my clients' houses and he can, like, say, like, he's always like, Marcy's such a great client because she really does take into consider a 7-year-old now, all right? A 7-year-old. She takes into consideration and she does what you say. Like, she listens. And I'm like, oh my God. But that's so beautiful, right? Because we all say, and right, to go back to when you first opened up today, you were talking about supporting also families that have autistic children and just anyone on the spectrum, right? People think that they can't learn this, and no, it's not true. They can totally learn this, and they can be a part of the process.
Aiden has been doing it with us.
Yes, when he saw his room, when, you know, the portion that we didn't have him there, but that we came and we were asking him for stuff, and he would be very clear on yeses and nos, and he would ask me, Tia, okay, can I keep this one, or can we keep 2 of them? You know, like, the fact that he already was understanding that, and then he saw his room and he was like, oh, it looks so good, you know, like, we have the capacity. Of course, there might be kids on the the spectrum that won't have that capacity,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying that I'm here to make a miracle with everyone, but what I do know that this is a skill that I want to pass on generation to generation, because it's also a healing that we're doing of that scarcity mentality, of remembering that we are abundance, right? And how can we tap into that abundance if we don't have these things holding us back? And so having Gadiel just like really have that skill already, I think it's such a beautiful success story personally, but also with people that I've worked with, just having people realize like the connection that it has to whatever it was that was holding them, like that moment where it's a light bulb, is really a beautiful success. I had let me see, I'm like, wow, there's so many beautiful people. I had a client that she thought she was over her divorce. She thought she was like over that, and there's so many levels to that, right? Like I've been separated from my son's father for a long time, and I recently. Oh, actually, you know what? This is perfect. So again, it'll go back to me, right? But that's just the reality of things, right? Like
because it's part of the work.
It's a part of the work, right? So, I had gotten gifted a beautiful vase. This vase is huge. It's beautiful. I'm in love with it. And so I looked at all of my vases at home, and I'm like, I don't need any of these anymore. Like I have the one that I need now. And one of them was one that my son's father gifted me. And I have been completely like, I'm so happy that we're not together. Like I've come to that point where I'm like, I'm grateful what we did together. It was we create this beautiful child, and now we co-parent together. Like I'm good. And that's why I'm mentioning this, because there are times where you have healed from the thing, and then something happens and you're like, oh, there's a deeper healing to do, because this is connected to something else, right? And so when I came and I'm looking at the vase, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually gonna let this go. Like, whoa, this is huge, right? And so going back to my story with the divorced person, right? Like she thought she was over, and I had switched, and I had given her the perspective, like, you don't all have to be over it completely. This person you had a child with, like, I'm always gonna have something that I get rid of that my son's father gave me. It's always gonna be like this is huge, because it was so huge in my life. And so again, right, talking about this client and her success, so she gets to that point and she's like getting rid of all these things, and we get to the ex-husband's things, and she's like, oh, I'm so ready to get rid of this. Like I'm ready. You know, like you can see the rage and the anger coming up, and I'm like letting her go through it. And so then she comes, and there's this guitar. And that was when, like, she was already getting rid of everything, and that's when she paused, and she was just like, oh, I guess I still have some stuff, you know? And then, you know, she starts crying. I'm holding space for her. And I'm like, what's coming up for you, you know? And she's just like, I didn't know I could feel what I'm feeling right now, because I've been over this relationship, and I've flourished, and, you know, I'm happy. She's like, but just the guitar is bringing so much back. And I'm like, and that's okay. I'm like, that's okay. That's okay. You're a human being. God gave us the ability to feel emotions. That's how we are the most evolutionized. I mean, again, going back to us being a part of this ecosystem and how we don't, you know. But, you know, like, that's where it's okay to feel your feelings. And so for me, that's a success, because she was able to feel it, process it, and let go. There are people that they feel, they start to process, it's too much, they pull back, and now this item would have been kept. Which is not conducive nor serving what you're making space for. So that's a story that I love. Again, you know, it tied back into me, but I think that I am a success story, right? And so like there are and you know, and like being able to come back, and that's why I say, like, I can't offer to anyone without always coming back to me, because that's just my nature, you know? Osa, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so happy to be here. And then we got it recorded like all the way through.
Yes, I'm so happy. So, Comadres, I'm going to end the show how I usually end it, which is follow me at Comadreando Pod everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter.
All of the things.
Yes, all the things. And please follow Osa on IG. Yes. Drop your handles, please.
I'm like, as of right now, I'm hungry, so you'll see them there. But you'll see Vida Feliz. You'll see OASÍS Feliz, which is the name of the decluttering brand. And then you'll also see Cocina Feliz, because that is my vegan chef, inspired by Afro-Caribbean food, especially Dominican culture, because that's our mission, is more to just bring fun to what you're eating, and reminding you that you don't have to let go of your sazon.
Yeah.
So that's really our whole thing. We don't really want to change people. Like, we don't want to change the way you don't want to be vegan.
We don't want to make you
vegetarian.
eat kale.
Yeah.
When it's not available in our country.
Exactly. But like, to really like be excited about still being able to have your sazon with all of the alternative things. And so you'll see all of those handles there. I want to thank you so much. Hola Comadres. You know, I'm so happy to be a part of this community now. And yeah, I just want to remind people that it's all a step towards where you want to go, and definitely decluttering your space, I believe that is a part of your mental health journey. And so I'm here for all of you. If you have any questions, I'm more than open to responding to you. And then anyone that comes from the Comadreando podcast will be getting a 10% off, and that 10% will be then donated and or gifted to Comadreando so that it can continue to run. So just know that it's all a circle about keeping the money in our community so that we can continue to do the work that we love. Because, you know, we've spoke about this before. Like, I haven't been making riches off of this, you know, and the consistency of my dedication to it is what has had me here now. But like, please understand that we need and want all the support that y'all give us. And so to be as a thank you, because I know it's not the last time I'll be here, but as a thank you, everyone coming from the Comadreando community will be getting a 10% off.
Yay.
And we'll be gifting it to Marcy.
All right, guys. So if you have any questions at all, like I said, like we said, please feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram via email at marcy@comadreandopod.com or slide up into my DMs. Please visit our website to catch up on our latest blog posts, get your Comadre merch, and to find out about future events. I'm going to try to see if we can figure out a future event for the Comadre.
Oh, yeah.
And that is pretty much it. And welcome again to the Comadre Club.
Yes. We're definitely coming with an event. Just know that it's coming. I'm also like an event extraordinaire.
Yes. So her brand, Vida Feliz, is the event organizing space that you do, right?
The Vida Feliz. No, the OASÍS Feliz is the organizing.
No, not I mean,
so the Vida Feliz.
Like,
yes. So Vida Feliz
events.
is where we coordinate. That's really what Vida Feliz has become, is like the bringing everything together into one space, and then also bringing practitioners in our community from where, you know, whatever walks of life into the same space. So that really is what Vida Feliz is about. So we're definitely going to have an event together. We'll definitely be having Comadre the podcast. And that's how we tie everything. And then people can learn not only about what Vida Feliz is doing, but what is happening in their communities and all the support and amazing healers that we have. Because at the end of the day, you are your own healer. Yes. And sometimes all it takes is meeting another healer to shine that light on what you already have inside of you. And that's what my mission is.
Amen and aho. Yay. All right, Comadres. We'll see you next time. Bye.